Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig deep into the story of the resources that literally built our modern world, the energy we've unearthed from the past. We're talking about our buried sunshine, fossil fuels.
So, before we jump in our time machine and go back millions of years, let's start with a question about, well, right now. Just think about all the stuff you use every single day. The fuel in your car, the plastics, even some of your clothes. Where does it all actually come from?
Well, to answer that question, you've got to understand that nature basically gives us two kinds of resources. And honestly, the difference between these two, it's everything. It's the whole point of our story today.
So, on one side, you've got your inexhaustible resources. Think sunlight, air, stuff that for all intents and purposes, we're never going to run out of. But then you've got the other side of the coin, exhaustible resources. The name says it all, right? There's only so much to go around. And this is the group that includes things like forests, minerals, and yeah, you guessed it, the stars of our show today, coal and petroleum.
So yeah, we're focusing on this very special, very important group of exhaustible resources called fossil fuels. And the name itself is a dead giveaway, isn't it? They're literally made from fossils, the remains of plants and animals that lived millions and millions of years ago.
All right, let's get into it. First up is coal. And its story, man, it starts about 300 million years ago. We're talking about a version of Earth you wouldn't even recognize.
So, how do you make coal? Well, it's a 300 million year recipe, but we can break it down into four main steps. First, you start with these incredible, dense forests. Then, over time, stuff like floods buries them deep under layers of dirt and rock, and that's when the real magic happens. You add a ton of pressure and heat from the earth itself, just piling on, squeezing, and basically cooking all that dead plant stuff. And after millions of years of that, it slowly turns into coal. It's a process called carbonization. But here's the thing, coal isn't just some black rock you throw in a furnace. When we actually process it, we get all this other amazing stuff. You get coke, which is this super pure carbon that you absolutely need to make steel. Then there's coal tar, this thick black goo that's a key ingredient for making everything from plastics and perfumes to roofing materials. And you even get coal gas, which is a powerful fuel for factories. Okay, so we've talked about the solid stuff, coal. Now let's switch gears to another giant in the fossil fuel family. This one's a liquid, and wow, has it completely changed our world in like the last 100 years or so. You've probably heard petroleum called black gold, right? Well, there's a really good reason for that. It is almost impossible to overstate how commercially important this stuff is. So how do you get petroleum? The process is actually pretty similar to how coal is made, but there's one massive difference. Instead of giant forests on land, petroleum comes from zillions of tiny little organisms that lived in the ancient oceans. When they died, they just sank to the bottom of the sea, got covered up with sand and clay, and you know the drill, millions of years, a whole lot of heat and pressure, and boom, they get transformed into oil and natural gas. And when we take that raw petroleum and refine it, whoa. The list of stuff we get out of it is just mind-blowing. You've got LPG gas for your house, petrol and diesel for cars and trucks, kerosene to fuel jet planes, lubricating oil to keep machines running smoothly, paraffin wax for things like candles and Vaseline, and even the bitumen we use to pave our roads. It's like the foundation for so much of our modern economy. It's incredible. So, okay, we've seen how unbelievably useful and versatile these fossil fuels are. They're amazing, right? But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive, unavoidable catch. Let's just stop for a second and really think about those timescales again. We're talking 300 million years to make coal, millions and millions of years to make petroleum. This isn't something that happens overnight. This is Earth-level, deep-time stuff, all to create a limited supply of fuel. And that, a few hundred years, that's how long our known supplies are expected to last if we keep using them like we are now. Just think about that. Millions of years to create it, and we'll burn through it in the blink of an eye, geologically speaking. To really get your head around this problem, let's try a little analogy. It's super simple, but really powerful. Picture all the fossil fuels in the entire world as one giant bucket of popcorn. Okay, so the first generation of people shows up. They're a pretty small group, they dip in, and they take a few handfuls. The bucket's still pretty full, no big deal, right? Then the second generation comes along. There are more of them. They've got better technology and they need more energy, so they reach in and take a way bigger scoop of the popcorn. Now, you can really see the level in the bucket going down. And that brings us to the really simple, really important question. What's left for the third generation? This is the whole reason we call them exhaustible resources. That bucket of popcorn isn't refilling itself. Once it's empty, it's empty. That's it.
But see, the problem is bigger than just the bucket running empty. The consequences of eating all that popcorn, of using all these fuels, are huge. Burning them is one of the main reasons we have so much air pollution, which is bad for our health. And, as we now know, it's directly linked to global warming, which is changing the climate of our entire planet.
So where does that leave us? What's the takeaway here? Is that the end of the story? Not at all. The last chapter isn't written yet, and that chapter is all about the choices we start making, like right now.
The basic idea is actually pretty simple, even if putting it into practice is hard. We have to treat these resources like the precious, limited things they are. That means only using them when we absolutely have to. It's all about being smarter and more mindful about how much we use. And this isn't just some big, abstract idea. There are real, practical things we can do. For instance, groups like the Petroleum Conservation Research Association in India give out these simple tips that really do add up. Things like driving at a constant, moderate speed instead of slamming the gas and brakes, turning off your engine at a long traffic light, making sure your tires have the right amount of air in them, getting your car serviced regularly. They sound like small things, but when millions of people do them, they make a huge difference. So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Nature spent hundreds of millions of years creating and storing this energy, like a planetary battery. And we're on track to use it all up in just a few hundred years. That's just the reality of the situation. So the big question we're left with is, knowing that, what comes next? What do we do? Because that part of the story, that's the part we get to write.